Oh, hello. This is Yuri Skaja. I haven't spoken on this sort of video podcast channel, if you want to call it that, for a while, but a couple of things have happened. First of all, the newly elected Riga City Council, led by Martin Staķis, a former parliamentarian and a kind of businessman who represents the For Development 4 side of the electoral alliance, is probably going to be elected mayor. He has already put together his team. He's handed out vice mayor posts to three other people, so all the parties are sort of on the on the team with him. He has started to clean out one of the biggest problems for the new city council, which is the Riga Public Transport Agency or company, whatever you want to call it, Riga Satiksme, which is a disaster, and where he is now eliminating some positions and starting the beginning of cleaning out these Augean stables. As have said or written, it is Riga Satiksme is one of the biggest. They've got a 270 million euro acquisition or procurement deal that is sort of under the shadow of corruption, bribery, money laundering, you name it. And there's an audit report on that nobody has really fully publicized. That it would be very interesting to see how bad it is and whether maybe some of the big international banks that are financing or at least have committed to financing the acquisition of new trams and trolley buses and other things for Riga Satiksme, whether they would pull out when the full scale of the corruption and money laundering is known. I think the banks have been hesitant to do that because it would be a big international scandal. It would break the budget of the city of Riga, and it would also reflect poorly on their judgment and getting into deals with with these obviously corrupt city officials. But we'll see how that plays out. The city council elections are still not 100% over because there were these 600 plus ballots that were put in envelopes that were not stamped properly. That doesn't really change the content of these envelopes, as people voted as to how they voted, and they didn't check the envelopes where they put their ballots before they tossed them in the ballot boxes. So a court has now ruled that there should be a kind of recount of those precincts where this mistake was made, and then those ballots in the unmarked or the unstamped ballot envelopes should be counted as part of the results of the election, which will probably change little or nothing, although there is some speculation that it may award another mandate to the New Unity Party. That is a party of Prime Minister Krišjānis Kariņš. That would not change things radically. The interesting thing about the outcome of the city council elections is that the largest number of seats within the faction that got the largest number of votes, which is the alliance between For Development 4 and the Progressives, that the largest number of seats among the 18 seats that this electoral list got are the progressives, the kind of modern social democrats here in Latvia. What this means they got 9 out of the seats as progressives, and they got another 2 seats that were their kind of allies from kind of neighborhoods in Riga, whatever it was. So there are 11 people on the city council that more or less are progressives or represent this new social democratic movement in Latvia, that possibly foreshadows that the progressives will make it into the national parliament in the next election in 2022, and possibly they will succeed in getting into some municipal councils and municipal authorities in other places when there are municipal elections all across the country next year. So that's that. The other thing that, of course, has happened in in recent weeks is, or whenever it was that I last appeared here, is that the Baltic travel bubble burst because Latvia kept its threshold at 16 infections per 100,000 inhabitants, and that sort of knocked Estonia out of the list. And it looks like Lithuania will be next. Now, both Estonia and Lithuania raised their thresholds to 25 per 100,000, and they asked Latvia to do the same, but Latvia's Minister of Health said, no, we're not going to do that because our threshold and our relatively low rate of infection here allows us, for instance, to open schools and with classroom teaching instead of remote teaching, which has been kind of a problem for a lot of people here, not only because some kids find it hard to get used to, but also because this is not exactly a very rich country, where everybody can afford to sort of go off and buy their kids an iPad when they're forced to stay home instead of going to school. But that seems to be solving itself. Anyway, so bye Baltic travel bubble. Probably tomorrow. I'm speaking to you on Thursday, the 16th of September, and presumably, no, it's the 17th. It's hard when you don't have to go back and forth to a job. It's you sort of difficult to keep track of time. But anyway, tomorrow on the 18th, it looks like the end of the Baltic travel bubble, and the only two countries in Europe that we will be able to get, or three countries, if you want to call one of them a country, are Liechtenstein. So there'll be people whistling the Liechtensteiner polka in the streets, and we'll know where they're from. And Finland, if they come here directly by ferry, or if they fly directly into Riga airport. And the Finns are fairly well off, so if they're really interested in being here in kind of a cold and increasingly chilly and rainy fall, then fine. We'll see more Finns in the streets. And finally, the Vatican. That is also a place where there is actually 0.0 infection rate for 100,000 population. Unfortunately, there is no Vatican International Airport from which visitors, maybe members of religious orders or whatever, could take off and come here to check out the sites in Latvia. So I don't think we'll be seeing too many priests or monks or nuns from the Vatican roaming the streets of Riga, unless they're already here for some other reason, because they have to go through Italy, and Italy is still on the list. Had we raised the threshold to 25, the latest data seem to show that wouldn't have worked for opening Latvia to tourists from Sweden, a very important source of tourism, and it probably wouldn't have worked for opening Latvia to tourists from Germany, another very important source of tourists. So we shall see. It is bad for the tourist business. Hotels are being shut down. Hotels that opened temporarily and accommodated Lithuanians and Estonians and Finns, they're now being closed and shuttered and put in mothballs. Never mind that the ferry boat industry and the airlines also are not obviously flying at full capacity. So this continues to be a major problem. The restrictions due to the COVID-19 epidemic or pandemic or whatever you want to call it. So that's where things stand on those issues. Next week or a week thereafter, I guess, 29th, President Macron of France will be visiting Latvia. There was a press conference today. I read the news accounts of it, and it seems that it'll be just a kind of a state visit or a formality in which we'll talk about mutual issues, the future of Europe, how to deal with the pandemic, and all of that kind of stuff. There are no dramas probably coming up in connection with this planned visit by the French president. The last time a French president was in Latvia was apparently in 2001, which, if I remember correctly, president at the time was Vaira Vīķe-Freiberga, a fluent French speaker, since she grew up and made her career in French Canada. But maybe Macron will also want to meet her, although everybody is going to be sort of keeping a distance and wearing masks and all that. That was also discussed at the conference today, because France is still on the blacklist as far as coming in here and not isolating oneself. Yes, which one should also mention that the requirement for self-isolation from coming in from any of these sort of pestilence countries is now 10 days. It's been cut back from 14 days. So I guess if someone wants to spend 3 or 4 weeks here on a long Swedish vacation, then you can come in here, lock yourself away for 10 days, and then the rest of your time you're okay. It's not going to be half your vacation. It's going to be a little less than that if you follow the rules and come in from, say, Sweden or one of these other countries. But we are still waiting. I guess the whole world is waiting for some different solution, vaccine or a treatment or whatever, to make this whole thing go away. The rate of infection here has sort of fluctuated in the low single digits in Latvia. There have even been days when nobody has been found to be ill. But that cannot be relied upon as an indicator of what will happen when people are going back to school, girls are attempting to go back to workplaces, and when people spend a lot more time indoors and all of that. So that's basically a kind of bit of rambling discussion of what we've had going on here in Latvia, and I will there now sign off.